So Champs is over, and has been, for a while now, but there's still plenty to make a video about. So let's talk Abyss, in particular, DRX's Abyss. Despite their classic 5th place finish, DRX showed a really strong look at what this map's meta is likely to evolve into, despite its infancy. Abyss entered the VCT map pool in Stage 2 playoffs, barely before Champs, and DRX were quick to punish pick it right from that offset. Of all the looks top teams have tried on this map, theirs is by far the most dominant. No better time than knocking on the door of Champ Seoul for a Korean team to find such an ace in their map pool. That said, let's look at some of the rounds that demonstrate why DRX were able to take the likes of Fnatic, Heretics, and Crew on Abyss. On the attack side, DRX's A-split is their deadliest exec. Fluid movement through mid is vital to making that happen. This is how they pull it off against different kinds of hold in mid to secure huge rounds. Here's the situation. A full buy round and Crew have recently called a timeout. DRX's fast site hits with late reflanks from flashback have netted them some big rounds, and Crew need to find a way to stop it. This is how they'll try to do it. With Foxy's ult online, Shy spaces away from B main to maintain his Cypher util, while MTA and Kesnet use their own KO knife to stop the potential fast hit at A in a simple push-pull setup. DRX's default mid clear holds Crew back to start, but Crew's knife tags butts, telling Crew where DRX's lean is at the start of the round. DRX's classic move here is to contact mid and slow Crew's rotations, but Melsa's one step ahead this time. Using Heat's drone, his high tide mid allows Flashback's cam to be broken and Crew claim occupation of mid. DRX's only choice is to hold their ground while Crew play intelligently for the flood using their mid prio. All of a sudden, DRX are massively on the back foot.
The presence to the top of the site, there's nobody that's lurked up. Trust me guys, Melsa's not pushed up in the spot.
And just as suddenly, DRX take the momentum right back. Marco smokes and Omen ults into vent. Crew's heaven suddenly comes under threat. Flashback's cage allows him to dupe the mid rotators and Melsa is left in the dust. On site, the flood plan is in shambles. Bane's drone nets Buzz front site, and with Marco in the way, Heat and Shy can't assist from heaven as planned. MTA is isolated on site and swiftly dispatched, as Crew scramble to find a way in. With heaven as leverage, and Crew again forced into a weak CT exit at A, timing falls into DRX's hands and the post plan is a sure win.
Angle claims the kill onto Melsa. DRX to kill feed that is filled up with red, at least for now. Kesnet traded.
Even more so when a PC issue unfortunately takes Heat out of the round. This is an exec DRX love to use, but the real takeaway from this round is how effectively they were able to identify the value in it in the middle of the round. We can also see from this the fluidity of DRX's ult use. Crew's adaptations were solid. They denied DRX of their all-important mid space and played a solid anti-KO game. But DRX not only managed to win the round, but saved their KO ult in the process and dismantled their mid hold. DRX are also confident adapting to different styles of defensive mid control. Team Heretics, perhaps learning from Crew, mainly played to prevent A split execs and hold the branches out of top mid, using things like deep cams and trips. Here we have a similar round. Foxy's ult is up, and both teams are staring down the barrel of an economic reset coming into the final round of the half. Heretics plan on outspacing Foxy's ult at A and fighting for heaven control for their retake, while Benji plays reactively around B and top mid just to enable Boo's rotation in if needed. Heretics plan on reacting to DRX's options rather than overspending to deny deep space. Having experienced Heretics' mid traps before, in this round Marco changes up his second smoke to cover his walk down on the left to a more safe position.
Util, see if he can slow things down.
Flash the peek in towards A main.
Flashback's cage offers a safe TP to set up the same exec as we saw with Crew.
Into this mid connector.
Cover going out.
Heretics are a little wiser than Crew, and opt to leave site and reinforce heaven as the drone comes in. But DRX are quick to respond, and this is where the round is won. Seeing site empty, Bane reinforces Marco in heaven to create a crossfire. Combine that with a classic Marco moment,
In their footsteps, swings out, catches a good timing, clears out the dizzy, and finds a second to boot.
and the two claim 3 of Heretics' players, securing the round.
And now it's a 2v5 for the retake here. Heretics, how long do they want to stick around? The money is still a bit wishy-washy. And it looks like the call to go ahead and evacuate has been made.
While their attack half was impressive enough, DRX's defense blew Team Heretics out of the water. though of course, Heretics were quick to return the favor on Sunset. DRX's manipulation of mid-space played a huge role in that, and here's how. It's the bonus round, and DRX have confidently gone for an op on Buzz. They've opted for a new setup, kill trips on A to throw Heretics off, since they've already experienced DRX's usual backside swings, and a 3-man stack in mid to maintain options against Heretics' oppressive execs.
Crucial round here for Team Heretics. They need to prevent DRX from claiming this bonus.
Woot spends Dizzy to claim A main for Heretics, keeping DRX honest. Foxy's knife only tags Boo, so he remains strong on his preemptive angle.
Into this match. Buzz is going to be watching mid, and
Boo.
Boo gets the better of him though, and the loss of all B preemption forces a snap rotation towards B from Buzz.
He pinged it out. They're aware.
Buzz peeking, but he doesn't know how far in Boo is!
Matters worsen as Buzz is caught too, leaving a wide open gap in B main. DRX's formation gives them no info in A main to call Heretics' rotations, so it looks like Boo has single-handedly won them the round. But Mako is smart to walk down mid, knowing that Heretics were leaning A in the early round and will need to move towards B in order to capitalize on the picks. This walk down allows Flashback to stay near his setup and Bane to play reactively off the information.
Back into A. Flashback has his setup here to try to buy some time, and Mako waits out.
Mako finds a huge kill on Boo, and all of a sudden, Heretics are left with no rotation options and Flashback is still at A with his kill trips. Despite their man advantage, Heretics are forced to exec at A because they've lost all their threat towards B and have no leverage space in mid, where they know Mako's been. This ramp up in speed, paired with the assumption that Flashback will have moved by now, makes them sloppy, and Flashback finds massive value. Even their retake in this situation is slow and controlled. Using Mako's one-way and Bane's drone, they initially threaten backside positions while Flashback maintains heaven for potential re-aggro.
Chance, close of the round, Mini Boo peeking in behind.
Their ramp up in speed, combined with Mako's paranoia and Bane's dart, isolates Mini Boo from Benji, and some clean trading closes things out.
Just Mini Boo with 11 HP, and the spike is not planted for him. Mako set up, waiting on the line, swings the corner, and Mini Boo's dead.
Quick thinking like this, combined with solid rotational and fighting protocols, is what led DRX to such a resounding victory in this map against an incredibly skilled team like Heretics. By now, we've seen plenty of how DRX make use of mid-prio to set up execs and retakes. While this is a staple of their style on Abyss, fans of the team know that their main strength has always been in the basics, the adaptability of their execs, anchors, and retakes with solid execution. A basic, familiar composition like the one DRX run on this map does really well to allow them to lean into these strengths. With good cycling utility, a lot of exec util, and a solid defensive core, this comp gives DRX the perfect means to play their objectives and rack up rounds on their executional prowess. Let's first look at their defensive site play and see what we can pick out about DRX's oppressive defense. Here we have round 6 versus Fnatic. DRX have just won a Thrifty round and reset Fnatic's econ, so by all means we expect DRX to win this round. What I want to call attention to in this round is how DRX slightly shift their smoke use for the formation they're in and the style of Fnatic's wide exec. Ordinarily, DRX are very quick to resort to backside smokes in this formation to funnel players in through backside and flood, but this round, they play things out a little differently.
This would be it for Fnatic because they have that lockdown. They're one away from that dimensional drift as well as the Viper's Pit. Buzz, though, going to look to try to deny them the opportunity.
After taking first contact, Buzz peels back to backside. Foxy follows after getting tagged. Right here, watch how DRX flood into sight.
Stuck here in the smoke, and Durka, it's easy enough for him to collect. As soon as that suppression is gone, he can just go ahead, slap the mask on face. Pushing forward, though, Foxy and Bane, two-man firing squad. Able to find one apiece here before Bane gets taken down. The flash is gorgeous in the back of the site, and that is...
Blink and you'll miss it. Here's a breakdown of what made that anchor technique so oppressive. First, let's talk about this smoke. What makes this smoke interesting is that it makes it harder to funnel DRX players in once Fnatic get into front site, but if played correctly, it allows them to maintain or reclaim ownership of the line through mid site. Here are the ways that DRX play around this smoke to make the B site impenetrable for Fnatic. Before the anchor even happens, Foxy holds his knife in the early round. This is so he can throw it as DRX peel back to back site, making their subsequent flood that little bit easier. Just from this, notice how Fnatic's exec only touches the wider parts of site to try to get to the safe plant spot. Next, let's look at Mako, Bane and Foxy during the second phase of the anchor. Notice as, while Foxy holds the path through mid-site passively for Buzz at first, Mako floods out of the heaven smoke using a blind and immediately moves as wide as possible for the smoke reset. This re-establishes mid-site as DRX's through a wide sightline. Foxy and Bane reinforce him, and suddenly mid-site is reclaimed by a double swing and an up-down. Fnatic don't stand a chance. The double swing onto safe plant players is a solid cleanup after the fact. The main takeaway from this is definitely the flood form, widening out off the smoke exit and setting up a solid trade zone through front site during the initial scaling of Fnatic's exec, 1 DRX this round. Here's a look at something a little more standard for DRX. This is a more normal formation for them. In this round, they play the backside smoke because, unlike in the round versus Fnatic, they don't have the burst util on this side to force smoke exits, so this round, their main goals are to keep Buzz alive and hold on to backside. Notice how in this round, DRX grant frontside movement to crew to reinforce their backside with stronger trading.
Get away from this fight. In fact, they want to be the ones to draw that blood up and the bound. This quick scope and Buzz is able to find the one, and there's no return of that fire, no trade in sight, still alive and kicking. And finally the reinforcements flooding back in and around, but the bullets running out. Buzz, how the hell are you still alive here? Dash back online, Shorty in his hands, Foxy9 finally there with him.
Their flood form here was so strong, they managed to flood in versus a Harbor ult while keeping an op alive backside the entire time. There's plenty of variety and creativity in how DRX play these B floods in particular, especially accounting for the many different ways Flashback sets up the site. For sake of time, we won't go too much into everything they can do here, but just for funsies, here's a Flashback moment.
They look to make a bit of a pacey hit here towards B. Clear out on one of the trap wires.
Missed it.
Yep, not finding it quite just yet. Bane sending out the recall. Flashback just swings into the site! Cleans up 3, re-ends will be good for 2, but then Mako takes him down and suddenly it's just Boo left standing.
Watch how Flashback times his cages and swing during the unprotected part of Heretics' scaling, after their exec util has expired. Very cool. That was fun. Anyway, let's look at A now. On A, DRX by default tend to get a lot of mileage out of abusing wide, backside swings against smoke exits, and then going in for the kill after holding off the attacker's first exec phase. We can see this in their defense pistol against Heretics. Looking at the economy, DRX are doing that thing again where they kind of just buy a bunch of sheriffs. Interestingly, they've had Bane buy a sheriff for Flashback, so he could place a trip on A and turn B into a firing range with Buzz.
Not giving them a lot of opportunities to even get spike plants down, or if they do, the retakes have been very, very clean.
The round starts out slow, with a familiar A main claim and a knife to call it. Importantly, Boo finds and destroys Flashback's deep cam at B, so Heretics know where the cipher is. From there, things are pretty slow. Heretics want to catch some kind of mistake from DRX, and DRX know that their advantage in range fights with the guns they have. Heretics dodge Foxy's next KO knife and take that as their cue to move in.
Heretics are doing everything they can to try to send obfuscation towards mid. Now the hit is on.
Not expecting a trip at A, Miniboo loses his life on the smoke exit. Already, Bane is moving to flood in, and as Heretics attempt their second smoke exit, his dart tags 3, slowing Heretics further and granting more picks. Even with this man advantage, DRX stayed diligent. Watch how they move around mid-site to complement Flashback's arrival from heaven, completely cutting off the narrow side of the site and maintaining their ability to trade till the round closes. At no point in this round was an isolated fight given. Backside is still DRX's playground even when tested. Here we have a full buy round against Fnatic, with Fnatic holding a massive ult advantage. A Hunter's Fury, a Lockdown, and a Viper Pit against Mako's Omen ult. Look out in particular this round for how DRX maintain their backside control. For DRX, it's vital that Fnatic don't get an established post plan to get their Viper Pit down, especially in a round like this where they're desperate to find an economic resurgence. Knowing he can't challenge a Lockdown or Sova ult entry, Flashback at A has kill trips with a Flood Cage for Heaven and a cam to enable those backside swings. Over at B, the aim is to keep Buzz on a deep angle as long as possible and deny Fnatic the chance to even set up to use their ults. At round start, Fnatic declare a lean towards A with Chronicle's Dart and some info denial in mid. Foxy responds by knifing B main to confirm his rotation, and moving to cover the mid branches so Mako can float. just as Fnatic reclear A main, Bane reclears mid, and DRX rotate to A to meet Alpha's lockdown.
Up in there because DRX has been pushing up back against them so very well, but now speed about to get ramped up a bit. Lockdown going to come into play. It's like widely waiting to see what the response looks like here on the opposite side. They know there's no Hunter's Fury to try to clear this out.
Fnatic turn the round into an A split, and play their smokes mainly to secure front sight for the plant. During this time, Flashback manages to secure a wide position backside as Alpha's ult drops. Notice how as Flashback leans into his position to deny the plant, Bane and Foxy move to secure it by establishing a double swing backside.
Ultimately, DRX just going to have to give that space up.
And this is going to be tough for DRX now.
Oh, the ping reveal and Flashback able to strike, finds that kill, and Bane was covering fire.
From there, Bane swings with Flashback and reinforces backside against any narrow scaling along with his dart. The pause here from DRX is brutal. With no leverage and a pressing need to plant, Fnatic slowly surrender the round under the pressure.
Again, it's going to be the last man standing, and he's completely and utterly surrounded. Bane with a big round.
With that, DRX managed to beat a Killjoy ult and force Fnatic into an economic reset using no ults of their own. In this last round on DRX's Flood and Anchor technique, we'll also see them play into frontside A. Here we have yet another KO ult round, but this time it's on NTA. That aside, it's a dry round in terms of ults. By this point in the round, we can see how DRX have set things up to deal with Crew's exec options. Flashback is their floater, allowing him to dodge KO ult at B and offer flood rotations. Foxy throws his knife in A main to reclear once Crew claim mid, and Crew take this timing to move in.
0 point now thrown out towards A main again. DRX still feel like A is safe, and that's exactly the timing that Crew are using to group up. Straight after that 0 point. It's perfect calling from Melza.
Exactly, and Kesnet's still inserted as well, which means Foxy9 has to have his eyes directed into a different location.
Mako smokes A main just as Crew prepare to ult and hit the site. He finds the opening pick on MTA's entry in the KO ult. By this point, DRX's formation around A is constructed to prevent close exits, as Crew want to exec just for front site and the plant. Flashback's rotation thus must come through vent side to reinforce Foxy and Mako. Once Kesnet falls, DRX play to waterfall from heaven on timing, using Mako getting drone tagged as bait for Foxy and Flashback to clean up.
Melza's alone though, an isolated res down, adjustment, transferring with the rifles, and now no time. Not available here for Crew. They will be dropping and falling.
What's impressive about this round is how DRX were able to adjust their anchor to Crew's frontside exec and change their flood rotations on the fly. Knowing Crew's comp is built around solid trade infrastructure and info denial util, DRX were able to shut down an exec of a different style and take on a KO ult completely dry. By now it's pretty plain that DRX's defense is not to be toyed with. Their plant denial and floods are certainly the core of what makes them so dangerous on the defense side. Like we've said before, a big boon for DRX is their objective play and execution, so let's look at how they display this strength on offense as well. A big part of what makes DRX's execs on Abyss so powerful is the versatility of their application. A great example of this is the way they employ patience on their B execs to prevent floods and keep control of the pacing in their own hands. Their most well-known application of this was in this round against Heretics. Here is yet another full buy round. An Astra and Omen ult available, and none others from round start. The threat of the Astra ult gives Heretics the advantage retaking, so DRX need a decisive exec that gives them a strong, aggressive post plant to deny that value. Heretics on the other hand need to be wary of that deadly A split we saw earlier, so they play a formation to grant frontside A and slowly concede backside to play into that retake.
Idea for DRX, but Boo was just on it.
Both sides show a lot of respect in this round. DRX threatened their A split to split the map in half, and after a long, slow default, eventually turned for B.
Haven't been seeing them pay too much attention towards this side of the map. Looks like Heretics get a decent read, especially as those shots start ringing out. Nebula's coming down.
As the exec begins, Heretics pop both smokes for their anchor, and Buzz goes hurtling into his death top site. Foxy finds the trade onto Miniboo. Crucially, Woot spends his dizzy in this initial phase for the flood. From this point on, their swings into DRX will have to be dry. This pause after that initial skirmish is where the genius is. Time is ticking away from them, fast, but DRX hold their nerve. As Flashback creeps in for the backstab, DRX retains solid control of both major lanes into sight. Foxy has the wide line, and Mako and Bane widen out across front sight to guarantee trades as Boo's smoke expires. The smoke expires as Flashback arrives, and from there the cleanup is easy. With their rotation space taken away, Heretics can't come in to prevent the plant, and with only 4 seconds to spare, DRX get the plant and the round win.
Back towards A to try to keep his life intact.
What a pause from DRX there.
Another example of these patient B hits is this round against Fnatic. This one's a little more interesting in terms of ults. Fnatic have a Viper Pit and are 1 point away from their lockdown, while DRX hold their Hunter's Fury and Neural Theft. DRX start with an extremity-based default to deny ult orbs either side. After some traded recon util on the extremities, DRX eventually stack towards B. Suffice it to say, the B site does not look particularly inviting. Alpha and Hero have the site covered in stall util, and Durka's only a breath away from his rotation in with his op.
Still available here for DRX. Pit online, sent.
And then, Hero pops ult. Oh shit. Before any fighting has happened, Fnatic seem to have herded DRX into a nightmarish end to the round. DRX's first round of utility finds a little value. Bane's dart has no LOS, Foxy's knife doesn't tag, and Durka immediately flashes out of Mako's smoke. At this moment, DRX slow things down. Again, look at their positions. Flashback now has clear movement through mid, and Fnatic have no means of aggressing into the solid hold DRX has on their pit, so a stalemate is forced. Anzi to prevent Hero getting overwhelmed, Alpha overextends in the silence, and Foxy claims first blood. The chambered op Buzz is vigilant not to allow Fnatic flood timing during the pause, taking Durka down at Rafter. Hero is left completely alone in his pit, and DRX make quick work of him as well. When Flashback finally finds some action through mid, he claims Chronicle's life and Boaster is forced away. Spending no ults of their own, DRX have just executed into a Viper Pit and Killjoy util and lost only one player. As much as it didn't come into play this round, Mako was actually smart to save one of his smokes during that initial exec since DRX weren't planning on aggressing the link side of site. Should it have come down to it, he had this extra smoke for the post plant as a refresh to maintain site control after their plant. What makes these front site pauses from DRX so powerful is the way they use them to prevent floods and pressure movement through site. This was especially clear in the Heretics round, where DRX used what little time they had to bleed out the site using the added pressure from Flashback stealing away Heretics' rotation space. In these situations, it's easy to force some of the mistakes we saw Heretics and Fnatic make and quickly snowball them into fully claimed sites. When it comes to A execs and post plants, the attacker's ability to separate space around heaven and a large obstruction between front and back site is much more important than at a site like B. DRX's execs at A are just as strong, especially coming into their post plants. Here we have DRX's anti-bonus against Fnatic. So far, the scoreline's tied, but Fnatic have a firm hold of the momentum after winning the pistol and taking a long string of rounds towards the end of the first half. After a solid anti-eco, Fnatic have enough for a solid buy into the bonus, so DRX really have to work for this round. DRX lead with a typical slower default, a knife A main, flashbacks util in mid, and some wide space holds to prevent aggression. They apply some light pressure towards B with Bane's util to sell the pre-exec and use that extremity pressure to create some timing in mid for flashback. This pulls Chronicle's drone while DRX set up for a hit at A, where only Boaster is left on site.
May have been placed that they could try to clear early to give them a little bit more flexibility.
Flashback though, quite far forwards, ready to break this door. Chronicle taking a peek at it here for a brief little moment.
The hit is fairly simple to start with. Mako blinds Heaven as Flashback breaks the vent door for the claim. The side claim itself is interesting though. Notice how Buzz smoke dashes first, then Bane and Foxy send their exec util in to cover his pathing around site. This is what allows them to be so patient dealing with Boaster. The late dart keeps him isolated mid-site, so DRX can do their usual wide smoke holds to bleed him out. Once the post plant rolls in, DRX play a really strong formation. Flashback plays his usual position in vent for late pressure against Heaven reclear, and Bane reinforces that space initially. On site, watch how DRX use that Heaven leverage to fight back site and peel back after Fnatic's initial challenge.
The hit here for DRX to clear out the tower.
I have no tower control though. Retaking from this position is going to prove to be a bit difficult, especially as Buzz does that. Turns back, Foxy does still fall. Hero able to find that elimination. Double setup though in towers. Bane could end up dying. He does. Alpha, oh, a quick peek in, but then shut down. Flashback coming away with the kill.
This protocol allows them to bleed Fnatic of enough time and players that they just have to give up.
To just save these two rifles has been made. DRX are going to be regaining the lead.
If there's anything we can take away from this round, it's definitely this post-plant protocol. Buzz, Foxy, and Mako's formation in particular was ironclad. Buzz had first on the CT exit, and Foxy had a double swing with him if needed. If Buzz fell, Foxy could concede and hold left site, ideally with Bane, and Mako could cover the wide wraparound site from main. Even if Foxy fell from there, the extra Heaven leverage and Mako alive in main were enough to close a round. This gradual peeling away from holding a level 1 choke and keeping the pressure on all of the retake scaling is what makes these A post plants so deadly, and it's the reason DRX place so much more weight on Heaven in their A execs than most teams. This final round for the road is yet another Fnatic round. Since the bonus, things have gone less than ideally for DRX. After a 3-round loss streak, DRX are down on rounds and on economy. Not only that, but Fnatic have an Astra ult to push a retake past the line if needed. With little more than sheriffs and jet knives, DRX need to find this round win. To do it, they opt for a fast A hit. A knife A main secures their initial space, and Bane immediately drones to keep things moving. As Buzz goes barreling into Heaven, the rest of the team flatten out and establish site control. The smokes DRX choose are unconventional. They prioritize a solid frontside hold and Heaven leverage over a full site claim with no Heaven control. Given some time to stabilize, this is the post plan they go for. It's a similar idea to before, but this time DRX apply more pressure on that initial CT exit because of the Cosmic Divide threat. As Bane falls, watch how DRX reposition to cover the paths around site as a concession. Until Buzz falls, this gives Foxy free reign to play swings, during which time Mako widens out to catch Boaster's late arrival. With the man advantage, DRX hold out against the Heaven waterfall to close the round.
The quick TP, the trap, getting this done. Shots ringing through as they poke and prod. Out of the wall, the time is dwindling, and my god, DRX!
By peeling back to front site and maintaining safe, tradable challenges against Fnatic's Cosmic Divide, DRX take a 5v5 post plant with absolutely no rifles. Here's a look at that in normal speed to see just how quickly this particular protocol plays out in real time.
Double wraparound coming through in mid at the moment that he's gonna have to try to greet at the door. The push forward, shot rings out, the blind connecting, and Durka finds his man. Bane gonna be taking down Foxy 9, snappy with that first headshot, the second as well, but here comes the drop down, here comes the flood. Mako trying to hold the line.
And with that, closes our look into DRX's Abyss. Although that was just a handful of highlight rounds, hopefully this video has managed to provide some insight into what made DRX's Abyss so outstanding at the end of the 2024 season. Despite a basic comp, the takes DRX have on this map are original and intelligent, and for a roster that had a shaky year, this is certainly something to celebrate coming out of it. If nothing else, hopefully this video has demonstrated how far raw positioning and timing can go, even at the very top level of play. That said, thank you very much for watching and have a lovely day.